Hi Year 11 and welcome to part 2 of the lesson that was on earlier today. As I say, hope you enjoyed your trip, those of you that were on it. We're discussing symbolism so far that we've seen in Of Mice and Men. We've discussed the boss, we're now going to discuss Curley's wife, and then finally we're going to discuss Curley himself and what these characters might symbolise. So starting with Curley's wife, she has a very symbolic entrance to this novel because as soon as she arrives, Lenny and George are eclipsed. Their light is cut off by her entrance. It's a very sort of foreboding image that as soon as she arrives, the sunlight in the room goes and is blotted out. It's also very symbolic because she makes an entrance for herself. She's identified as someone who seeks attention. What's really interesting is when Steinbeck starts to describe her actual clothes and the way that she behaves, describes her body language, because everything in that is carefully put together to show that she is seeking attention. She has a fully made up face, she has rouged lips, she's wearing lipstick, she has those shoes that have ostrich feathers on. So she's very, very clearly identified as someone who is seeking attention. She's very provocative in the way that she stands. She's described as pushing her body outwards towards George and Lenny, who, let's face it, are strangers she's never met before. Really, what we said during the lesson today, and we've got a new key word for you, is that there's an illusion here. Not an illusion like a trick, but an allusion. And an allusion is when something is alluded to. So when something happens, and you know that it's actually referring to something else that's significant as well. The thing I'm talking about here is Curley's wife has red lipstick on. She's wearing probably a red dress. We don't know that for sure, but her fingernails are painted red. She exudes the image of the Scarlet Woman. Now, the Scarlet Woman is this idea that there were certain ladies who attracted attention of men, perhaps in an illicit way. Maybe they were married or maybe they went for married men, but the Scarlet Woman was a lady with loose morals, and Steinbeck, I think, introduces this idea for her. However, we have to also think about this. Curley's wife is also a very tragic character. She's out of place. If you want a metaphor for it, and again, this is a symbolic thing, she has ostrich feathers on her feet, on these mules, which are going out shoes. They're high heels, they're very delicate. They're out of place on a ranch. Someone should never wear shoes like that on a working ranch. They're just completely impractical. She's out of place. She's also desperately lonely, and I think that right from the beginning we get a sense of that she's very, very lonely. So that's Curley's wife. Right, so Curley himself. Steinbeck describes Curley in even greater detail than he does his wife. But when he identifies Curley as a boxer, as an aggressive man, everything in the description of how he moves is aggressive. We hear him crouching, going into a crouch when he sees George and Lenny. His hands move into fists, his elbows bend. It's almost like he's squaring up to them, ready to fight. His expression is pugnacious. He's quick to an argument. He's ready to fight. And then, as somebody said today in the lesson, which was fantastic, the language in which he is described is brilliant because he's described as his body lashed round. His body lashed round. It moved round quickly. It whipped around. The connotations that lash has and lashing is of somebody being whipped or flogged. It's a violent, aggressive description. If something makes you think of something else, we say it has connotations. And the word lashed has exactly the connotations of what I just said before, of being whipped, of being flogged, a violent image. And symbolically, we think of those things as we're introduced to Curley. Okay, right. Thanks for that. Bye-bye.